Shalom, everybody. Welcome. Get this set up here. See if we can get this set up here going where everybody can see us. May the words of my mouth and the message strength and of Redeemer, and it's in His name, which is His authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, protect His message. Amen. Welcome, everybody. Still on the road. Hopefully, we finished up by tomorrow. Schedule's all over the place. Got down. So, still got a couple of his. Thank you, everybody, for being patient with us. Once again, we give all praise and honor to the Most High, Yahweh Elohim. We give all bloom and flourish, not and either let and bloom and flourish. And we're thankful and grateful for everything she does behind the scenes. She's the healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. And motive of everybody, a lot of people going through some different things and struggles. We've been and continuing to pray for you all. Okay, somebody said it's going in and out. I don't know if the signal's going in and out. I don't really know what else I'm be able to. I see it now. We can do. Let's see if I can move. See if we get a better signal. I moved over here so that the sunlight wouldn't be so bright. That it wouldn't cause the phone to go off, overheat. But if you're saying it's going in and out, I'll see if I can move a little bit. Sometimes moving the slightest for some reason changes everything. So let me see. It's just moving some, maybe moving a little bit away from the hotel itself, maybe helps some. Let's see what happens. But thank you all. So it looks like we're staying on now. Yeah. All I did was just move a few feet. It's interesting how that happened. So we can get into this. But long story short, we're thankful and grateful to be on again. Appreciate you guys. Marsha, Malcolm, Betty, Isabella, and Solomon. Daddy loves you very much. And I think we got a better signal spot. So let me go ahead and slide up over here. Hopefully this will work better for us. It looks like I got more sun to deal with over here. But that's fine for now. If need that effect, well, we'll leave it here for now. We'll see what happens. But thank you all for being on. We appreciate you. And been a couple days. Wednesday I normally take off anyways. Thursday, hopefully everybody had Thursday Rise and Prayer. I just need to take a day off yesterday because I was extremely tired. Yesterday, got up. Could have done everything, but I realized real quick, especially with this traveling, that probably wasn't the best of moves for me to make. So, took off yesterday. Yep, and even with that, I can feel the phone's trying to do the overheating thing, even though I don't know what's going on. All right. Trying to take precautions here. Trying to make sure that, oh, no wonder. I think I see what was going on. So hopefully the phone doesn't overheat on us. We're on YouTube simultaneously. I don't have the podcast set up right now just because of traveling. You can see in the back and got stuff poking out the back. But I'm just trying to found a little spot to be able to crash overnight. Thank you everybody for being on. We appreciate you. This is my name is Kofi. I'm over Servants of Christ, where we're always changing lives one mind at a time, but being the voice of the voices and speaking the unspoken. And thankful to be with you guys again today. And this is going to continue the FAQ series, but in a sense, it's not. As I was thinking about things, and I didn't look at too many things, to be honest with you, these last couple of days. I tried to kind of check out. When you're on social media so much, sometimes the best thing you can do is check out, just to check in with yourself, to look at what your family's doing. And so that's why, really I've just now started posting videos, if you guys have noticed, again, because I've had a little more time and even taking just a day off here or there. Every once in a while, it allows me to be able to just kind of relax some. So actually late last night and early this rising, when I got up, I started watching things, and we were made aware of somewhere, like we have a spot up in Maryland and stuff, and friends and family up in Maryland and stuff, and apparently there was a mass shooting over there. Haven't really had a chance to. You said if you ever feel down, just oh, okay, thank you. Yeah, Elohim does love us very much. Thank you. So just was meditating on some things and seeing a lot of stuff going on, and really, started looking at stuff and hearing stuff about gun control again and all this stuff. And I wanted to talk today as far as the FAQ, but I want to talk about self control before gun control. And how you doing? My wife is on. Thanks, babe, for being on. Appreciate it. The Honorable Mind. So once again, you can check her out at Bloom and Flourish, not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. And so as I was thinking through these things and meditating on a lot of stuff that's going on, and it became very clear to me that in all these laws that are about to be presented, you have to be careful, because you got to be careful, because we're going into a place where we want to be, under public control and not private control. And if you don't know what that means legally speaking, we're going to a place where everybody wants the government to tell them what to do. Even if, and forget taking off the mask of Republican or Democrat. Republicans want the government to come in and shut down anything that's a threat to their side. Democrats want the government to come in and shut down anything that's a threat to their side. And so everybody wants to be under public control. Everybody wants everything to be out there for public consumption. And so you have a gun control issue going on without self-control. The problem is you have a government that wants to control guns, but doesn't do anything as far as controlling self. Now they want to control you, but they don't want to teach you how to control self. Hey, how you doing, Takwa? Bagatav, Shalom, Tendach, appreciate it. We have a situation where we have a government that wants to control you, but doesn't want you to control yourself. You haven't been taught self-control. We as a people have been taught that we're not supposed to have self-control. And as I was watching a lot of things, I was watching a lot of you guys' videos as much as I could. There's a lot of videos, and can continue to put the stuff out there, by the way. But as I was watching just videos and going into things and looking at all this stuff, and I'm not sure how long I'm being on, because we got to get on, you do a little bit of meet up, and then pretty much get right out on the road. So I'm not sure. We probably won't go the long time that you guys know I have the ability to go. However, hey, how you doing, Sister Tracy? Um, I wanted to talk about these, and I apologize for not catching up on people. I'm kind of, doing a little catch up, still a little tired, but I'm functioning a lot better. Um, However, I felt led. I almost was going to be like, well, maybe I should take another day. Holy Spirit, kind of pushed me in this direction today. And I went out, I was able to get in the sun and do a little bit of stretching and stuff. And so I'm in a great place, even if physically it's going to take me a minute to catch up, but I'm in a great place, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. Um, but I wanted to talk about the space where we want gun control, but no self-control. See, because I'm going to say some things that sound like party line speech, but once we get past that, hopefully we can get into what's actually profound. Um, we know that guns don't kill people. How you doing, Sister Rhonda? And hello to everybody. I'm sorry, Minister Sonia, Minister Tamara, I believe I saw on there. I'm sorry. Let me just go through. Y'all can see I'm a little out of practice. Minister Tamara, Sister Sharice. I think I saw Sister Cynthia. How you doing? Chill Pill. Oh wow, Chill Pill. I need to get in touch with you. I don't even know. Uh, um, Jacob, how you doing? Hopefully you're feeling better. Anthony, Sister Beverly, everybody who's on. I'm sorry if I missed your name. Forgive me. Miss Mac, Sister Barbara, Valisa, Butterfly Effect, how you doing? The King on there. Thanks for being part of the community and part of the conversation. Key Troy, to everybody. I'm sorry if I missed you. Just charge it to my head, not to my heart. You live and you learn. Hey, how you doing? Grand rising to you. So yeah, it's very important that we recognize that. How Marcia just passed, and how you doing? We gotta recognize and realize, and how you doing, Minister Select Joseph, that people want gun control, but they don't want to teach self control. And so going back to what I was saying, we know that guns don't kill people. That people kill people, and they use a variety of tools. If you look up on the news today, you will find a variety of ways that people have done dastardly deeds, right? And um, we have to make sure that we recognize that. And I need you to comprehend that the gun violence that people are really trying to put out there, as far as the stuff that's killing and doing these things or whatever, it's a facade. Now, I don't mean it's a facade as far as it doesn't exist, but you're going to hear a lot of things as far as gun violence is picking up. Gun violence has always been there. Okay, Sister Bree, how you doing? So, gun violence has always been there, right? How you doing, Cole? Um, Gun violence has always been there. I need you to comprehend, like, you're not having a new discussion, right? This is something that comes and goes every couple of years in a big way, right? Exactly, self-control. Because gun control, what does that do? I need you to comprehend another thing on top of that, that the 18-year-old boys that just did what they did, that got the most play, but we know there's been 18 shootings since the school shooting or something like that, or at least since the one in Buffalo, one of the two. They're right back to back. So, statistically, it might as well make one the other. It doesn't really matter overall, but, whichever. But you need to recognize that people have been shooting people with guns a long time, and they've been using illegal means of getting guns for a long time. It's easier, like, for some people, it's easier to get a gun than it is to get crack. Like, if you know where to go to get a gun, the other way and sell you one, especially if the price is right, right? And oh wow, thank you, Brother Vincent, appreciate it. I was not expecting that. Thank you, Brother Vincent, if you're listening and wherever you might be. Um, so I need you to comprehend. I'm not here to tell you that we shouldn't be worried about how many people are getting guns and where they're getting them from, right? But um, what I'm trying to tell you is that gun violence needs to be thought about as far as self-control violence. The kingdom of heaven suffers violence, the violent take it by force. And it's really, you're dealing with John the Baptist in that scripture, right? But so that's context for you, right? However, recognize that violence against the children of Yashville has been going on. If we're talking about that's the type of Christ, you're talking about 2,000 years ago, okay? Or almost 2,000 years ago, depending on when you believe he was born. Yahshua being he. Um, so, we're not dealing with something that's new, right? We're not really dealing with something that's new here. We're dealing with the same old, same old. If you want to talk about violence against the people that are indigenous to the America, the people who used to actually on paper be the original Americans, you're not dealing with anything new. You know, Geronimo wasn't the first person to fight. you know, the Choctaw weren't the fight. The Taino were not the first people to fight. The group of people that we now have lumped in together and called right, where you get California from, they were not the first people to fight. Um, Gun violence has been something that's been real for a long. Do you have self? You got to ask yourself a question. Do you have self-control? And when I say self-control, I'm not just talking about um, controlling yourself, which should be something as far as, yes, I'm humble, I'm willing to listen, I'm willing to not just pop off at the drop of a hat. I'm not mad because somebody bullied me. That means that I'm gonna, shoot up the whole school. If anything, if you had self-control, even though this is still evil, if you wanted to shoot at somebody, why not shoot at the people that were running their mouth at you? That shows that it shows that you lack self-control. It shows that your parents didn't teach you some things, right? But I'm talking about self-control as far as you have no government for self. I always mispronounce that, so forgive me. Powhatan could be the first, depending on what you're talking about, because depending on the time frame, there's other people even besides just what we call white people who came over too and fought. So, are you talking about, you know, the East, East Coast? Are we talking about West Coast? Different time frames that this stuff happened. Are we talking about, Leif Erikson and how they actually had some people that came against them? Are we talking about Florida and, before the Spanish even came? And then when the Spanish came over, things in Georgia, at least they predate what happened up in what we call, Plymouth Rock, even though that was a made up thing, whatever, right? The list goes on. That's what I'm saying. Like, we could go down that list forever. And then, we're just talking about North America. Let's not even bring up Africa, Australia, Africa is fighting. What the fight between Africa and Europe, right? Or really, it was Rome and Greece, but the fight between Africa and Europe is something that goes back, millennia now, right? So, we can go to different route, but my whole goal really is to try. So I agree with you, Long story short. I'm just saying, like, we could really stay there if we wanted to. My goal in this today, my assignment, if you will, is to get. Uh-oh, I'm sorry, we just lost signal. I just moved, so we wouldn't be losing signal. Okay, I'm not sure what's going on. All of a sudden, I'm losing signal. I guess because it's early and people are starting to turn stuff on, we might be losing signal. I just moved. We were doing better. Hopefully, we're doing all right. Keep us in prayer, because I really can't go anywhere right now. So hopefully, on another YouTube or not, I'm trying to use the same thing for the same signal on both. But long story short, I'll try to keep it short. We need to get self-control. Where's your self-government? Before we talk about gun control, how do you govern yourself? How do you govern your people? Right? Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it. How do you govern self? Gun control, right? Oh, thanks, baby. I can't really use it unless I'm inside there, so that's why I'm not using it. But thanks, baby. I appreciate it. But long story short, um, I need you to comprehend. Okay, you said even now, somebody just lost his life, 24 years old. So it's very serious, and you have to be careful because people are very emotional about it, and they should be. These are people's family members. These are people's work, co-workers. These are people's husbands and wives, their children, parents, their grandparents, um, and we should be aware of that. We should be empathetic towards that. However, those things are not going to change because you're working with the government. We have no sense of self. We have no sense, and when you have no sense of self as far as a collective, then you have no sense of protection as far as a collective. I'm gonna say that a few more times, because as much as I didn't hoop and holler on that, as much as I didn't slam my hands on the table when I said that, I said that with my full chest, and I want you to hear it again. If you have no sense of self as a collective, you have no sense of defense or protection as a collective. If you have no sense of self as a collective, you have no sense of protection as a collective. My wife said the guns do drive people to do violent acts. The guns don't drive people to do violent acts. Their minds do. Exactly, right? So peep game, right? If you're in a government that has shown that they will not protect you, then why do you think that gun laws will be the thing to protect you? And how you doing, Sister Deja? Thanks for the love. Appreciate it. If you're in, hear what I'm saying. If you're in a government, did y'all catch that? If you're in a government that has shown that they will not protect you, you have to ask yourself, why do you keep thinking that they're going to put laws in place? In other words, let me say it like this: if you're in a government that's shown that they will not protect you, you have to ask yourself, do they consider you as part of the collective? Right? Do you hear what I'm saying? Do you get it? Are you part of the collective? Who's being shut up? Your children could possibly, we're seeing this now, possibly could be shot up. If your children could possibly be shot up, and hey, how you doing? Time to leave. Great stuff you've been putting up, by the way. If your children, you hear what I'm saying? If your children, can I say that one more again? If your children can be shot up, are your children part of the collective when it comes to defense of this country? Does this country think that your child is worth defending? Remove the guns from it for a second. Self-control. Does this society show that you are part of their system enough to where they will protect your children? You said if you're in a system that doesn't protect you, why would it laws? Because laws protect rights. Do they consider your children to be worth protection? You said everything in America is protected except for black men and black women. Well, even we're finding out that even little babies ain't protected. But sure, we can talk about that, of course, too. I don't have any problem talking about that. Hey, Shalom Wise, how you doing? Right? I need you to comprehend, though. Think about that. If these babies can die, these babies can get it. If your ladies can die, they'll hog tie your women. They'll tie them up like they're pigs. Legit. Right? Sandra Bland. If you know about the stuff that happened to her, that was part of what happened to her. That's part of what made her sick. That's part of what messed with her mind. Before she was found hanging in that cell, look at how they treated her when they got her to the parking lot and took her from the parking lot in there. The guy took her out, tied up like a hog. Might as well have had an apple in her mouth. And then basically placed her on the ground, chest first. Now, if you get placed on the ground, I've done police work. If you place somebody and you arrest them or whatever, you put them in handcuffs, you put them on the ground with their hands tied behind their back, they only have a certain amount of time before they're going to die. They can't breathe right. And they start, certain body parts start filling up with fluid and stuff. That's one of the reasons why push-ups are actually pretty difficult, is because you're actually in a position that your body's not designed to stay horizontal like that, as far as just being on the ground and not moving. So they'll put your child is not protected. Your woman is not protected. Are your men protected? See, we talked about this with the Willie Lynch syndrome stuff. I think the very last time I was on, we definitely talked about PTSS for those who are on Patreon and those who were on Tuesday night with us. The question has to be, is anybody protected? And now, if anybody can get it, then you got to start asking yourself if and not going to a system where anybody can be protected, or at least looking for, right? Or at least looking for a place where anybody is protected, or at least looking to create a place. We've been talking about this for a long time. See, this is why we've been talking about YLP 83, Yah's Land Project 83, all these different things going on. This is why we've been discussing them. This is why we need to get this in order. This is why we need to make sure this stuff happens. Not just that, though, it starts even in the mind. Before you get the land, you gotta have the mind. May I say something? One of the worst things that's ever happened is that people believe that if it was not for the government, you would not eat. Thank you, peace at last. Appreciate it. Appreciate you being part of the community. Read your Bible, it'll bless you, right? I hear people talk about the Bible all the time. Well, read your Bible, it'll bless you. Because it says stuff like, I once was young and now I'm old. And I've never seen the righteous forsaken nor their seed begging bread. If you do things within right legal standing, I've never seen. We say we have faith, but we think the government's supposed to feed us. That's not how that works. I once was young and now I'm old, and I've never seen those that are within right legal standing forsaken, not forsaken by the government of this world, but not forsaken by the government of the kingdom. I've never seen them forsaken nor their seed begging bread. Okay, Kevin. Thank you very much. In Christ, there is no male nor female. Okay. Um, you're coming through a different cultural prism on that scripture, but hey, to each your own. But I've never seen the righteous, those who want to actually be in right legal standing. That's what that word means, even if people want to change it to whatever they want it to be. I've never seen those within right legal standing forsaken by the kingdom, nor their seed begging bread. The problem has become that you have no self-control. You have no government from the kingdom. You allow the kingdom, you allow your John, because that scripture, the kingdom of heaven suffered violence. You allow people to come into your kingdom and to your prophets and to your queens and to your kings, and you allow them to come into your place, and you allow them to govern you and to chop off the heads of your people. That's what happened with John the Baptist. The kingdom of heaven suffered violence. John was the greatest of all prophets. We're having signal issues today. John was what? He was the greatest of all the prophets, according to Yashua. Because Yashua is not a prophet, he's greater than a prophet. So John the Baptist is considered to be the greatest, and yet even John's head was cut off. recognize and to realize that we have an issue. Before gun control, where's your self-control? I heard a sister, and I was gonna say something back at her and stuff, but like it wasn't, it wasn't stitched, and it was gonna just be too much for me to try and put it in a short video so that other people could comprehend what was going on. But I heard a video from a sister, and I saw it actually first. I saw it stitched by a brother who's a friend, and then watched. It was a sister, black woman, and she said she was busy talking about how what is it? She was busy talking about how when what is it I'm looking for? I'm sorry, y'all. Oh, she was busy talking about how basically that straight men give black women HIV because black men aren't really straight. She was like, that's why we got to cut off these ninjas, which is the short, you know, uh, saying basically calling us the N word. Like black men are all basically, or well, most of us, or a big percentage of us, because she's like, these statistics don't lie. So I guess she was having sex with 2, 3 men, coming back home and giving HIV to women because of the fact that we're out with whatever. And so as I was listening to whatever, I didn't get a chance to respond, but my response was just simply going to be something along the lines of this: is that first of all, you as a black woman, I'm sad to hear that that's what's going on. Hey, Sir Stephen, how you doing? Hey, Sister Mary. I was like, I'm sad to hear that you feel that way, and I don't think we should run away from your comment because there are dogs, and in your case, you talking about half breeds, like literally. They go from my personal place that I would want to go is to define the same way, so nobody really cares. My sister, and you would recognize and realize dealing with that. Okay, cool. Here's the deal. Even in all that stuff that you said, the way to fix it is that we need to go back to being husbands and wives. Self-control. Why are you not married to somebody and he's in a position to be able to give you HIV? Why are you not married to somebody? Why are you not a wife pre-qualified? Why are you not with a guy that's not a husband pre-qualified? Why are you with a wife that's not pre-qualified? Why are you with a husband that's not pre-qualified? That would be my, you don't govern self. How you doing, Prince? We don't govern self. We have the government govern. Just like the government's trying to tell you that if they take the guns from you and therefore they have more control over you, things will become better, but you don't know how to make sure that you just govern self. We don't think that it's acceptable. Watch this, watch this. Could you imagine? It's probably not going to happen, but we used to say this at boot camp, but I want you to imagine this with the country. Could you imagine if everybody in the country, outside the 1%, simply said no? Like, the power of no is something that will bless your community. How you doing? Is it Omac or Omax King? How you doing? I don't know if it's Omax She or something, but Omax King. How you doing? Could you imagine if people simply said no? If they said you guys got to vote for whoever's coming in the office, and you said no. If they said you got to keep paying taxes, and you said no. If you said if you said if they said you got to go, if they said, well, you guys are gonna have to listen to us, and you guys said, you know what, we're not gonna do that. We're gonna say no. Now, why am I saying that? Because we don't say no to this system. The same system is the system that's raising these babies. See, look, you have been trained. I'm not telling everybody, by the way, don't put your family in danger. You got to be led. You got to take care of your family. We don't have a community together yet. Ain't nobody put one together for us yet, right? That's why we're attempting to do what we're trying to do. But what I'm trying to tell you is you have no society. You are in the land of your captivity. But in this land of your captivity, they say stay captive. And so you believe stay captive. You were born into captivity, right? Amen, Minister. Nice. No, it's divine for sure. I like that. You might want to put that on your channel or something. That's a great word right there, right? Or I don't know if you got that coming up. You got a lot of different words you're getting ready to present these next couple months. So we'll see what the Most High does. I'm excited to hear it, right? But hear what I'm saying. What if you started saying no? What if you had a mindset of no to your captivity and don't even recognize it? Before gun control, where's our self-control? Where's our self-government? You were born into captivity. They told you, even though your baby can be born anywhere, they told you your baby had to be born in the hospital. Why is that legally? Have you ever thought about that? Legally, your baby has to be born in the hospital, has to be jabbed with some shot, has to have their blood drawn, has to have their umbilical cord, which is actually bad for the baby. Because it doesn't matter how long it takes that umbilical cord to fall off until the placenta, until the afterbirth and everything finishes feeding that baby should be getting everything out of that placenta. But they took your baby's placenta and they chopped it up into pieces and they turned it into medicine. They turned it into taking from you. They're already taking your blood. They're already putting vitamin K shots and stuff like that have twice the legal dose of mercury that they would give to a dog. They put into your boys and your girls. And especially with these little black boys, our minds don't rinse out, the mercury is fast. Right. Can't control legs in the same position in the stairs but you drink drugs when your baby's being born. We're talking about certain things. Oh, here we go again. It's interesting. Like I said, I really don't know where to go with this, but we're gonna get this in. I can see now this is something we need to get out here, right? On these things sometimes. Your baby is drugged. Try as you may, you have the power over the senses. Try as you may. Try as he may. He ain't stopping this. I need you to comprehend. They got you. Yeah, you don't like that. But I'm gonna just move to another spot. If I got to keep moving slowly around this parking lot the whole time we're doing this, so be it, right? Somebody like this message can out. We're gonna get this out to you, right? That you got to comprehend. See, we just started at the beginning. I didn't even get past the baby part, but y'all see, we already having single issues. But I need you to comprehend. This is real. This is real talk. Like and so your baby is drugged. Why is it acceptable for your baby to be drugged? Where they do that at? Why did that become an acceptable thing? Who made that an acceptable part of your existence, that your baby should be drugged? Why are we okay with that? Right? When did we become okay with that? Who taught us to become? Who taught you to become okay with your baby being drugged like that? Who taught you that? Did Yahweh teach you? Understand that drugs are witchcraft. Creating something, somebody that controls something. Drugs are something used by people to control you. And they're indoctrinating your baby with drugs. Remember, only 7% of communication is verbal. Only 7% of communication is verbal. 99, I'm sorry, 99. I can't do math. 7% of communication is verbal. So 93% of communication is nonverbal. They're feeding your baby right from the jump. They've had you using machines to be able to see what's going on with your baby, so they can say, "Oh, we're checking the baby, this and that, or whatever." And while they're doing that with the machine, guess what's going on as well? While they're doing that with the machine, they've been basically blasting your baby with stuff that your baby don't need yet. Already telling mothers and stuff for the last few years, "Hey, if your baby gets they stopped doing within the last few years. Excuse me, about wow, time flies. About 25 years ago or so, even 30 years ago, they started telling people, hey, if your baby's got a fever or something, give that baby Motrin. Your baby, as long as they're moving, can have a temperature of 104 degrees and be fine. As long as they're moving. There are babies that get temperatures up as high as 108 degrees, can still live because they can have higher temperatures than adults can. Matter of fact, your baby's going to get a temperature. They're supposed to get a temperature because they're having systems in their body move for the first time. They're fighting disease for the first time on their own. So yes, they're supposed to have stuff like that happen. Matter of fact, ladies, one of the reasons you're supposed to give birth straight up is because that sometimes you will defecate a little bit while the baby's there. Now, they tell you not to eat. And I'm not saying maybe I don't know exactly how that works, but they'll say don't eat at all before you get a baby and stuff, right? Don't eat. But you're actually supposed to defecate a little bit. And when it hits the baby's immune system goes crazy because it's like, I don't know what this is, but we got to fight it, right? Yet they say that, and then when the baby's immune system starts working, able to defend itself, and not start working on this ultimate defensive self. Amen. Pharmakia, right? Greek for poison, potion, magic. Yeah, that's what a pharmacy is. Pharmakia is based on witchcraft. And I'm not saying a snake is a bad thing in general, right? But in context, if you see two snakes around that pole, the way it's been taken by Greek and Greco-Roman type philosophy, it means that it's something that's negative. From the jump, they're already working on the statement. From the jump, they're giving you a birth certificate and a social security number. How you doing, Sister Shante? How you doing, Sister Austin? From the jump, they're a birth certificate and social security card. That means that you're a fake citizen of a fake system called the United States Corporation. Because the United States of America is different than the United States Corporation, right? 28 USC 3002 15A, right in the law, tells you that the United States is a corporation. If you do some more research, you'll find out that the corporation is in the Republic, or I'm sorry, is centered in Washington, District of Columbia, named off of the fact that Washington, who's supposed to be Osiris, that's why he's got an obelisk up there, and it's supposed to be intertwined sexually with the goddess Columbia. That's why she hovers over him on the Capitol building. And then out of that's supposed to become Heru or Horus. And you guys are busy trying to say that that's Jesus. And they ain't got nothing to do with it because you don't even know the ancient Kemetic order, how it works. It's programming, it's control. Think about the fact that they, as soon as possible, they gave your child a little bit of time and they started saying, parents, hey, make sure that they go to a babysitter. So let somebody else train them. Hey, parents, okay, when you come back, do this, do that. Hey, parents, don't even breastfeed them because, breastfeeding is information that goes to your child. I'm talking about before you get to gun control, where's your self-control? Where are the things that are you that are going from generation to generation? Breast milk is information. It's communication. A lot of people don't know that children, right? A lot of people don't know that children that they have better communication with parents when they breastfeed. When they don't breastfeed, they grow up and they have a lot of issues trying to fit into life. And then the fact that even if you want to get into it, the formula that's created is created for young white males. Now, because we get somebody that questions that as soon as we say it, well, anybody can eat it, blah, blah. No. Comprehend that every type of baby has a different type of blood type, has a different type of genome, has a different type of DNA, has a different type, et cetera, right? And so you got to be in a position to where you recognize that even that formula, it wasn't designed for girls. Like people don't recognize when a mother has a child, any mother that's ever had a child, you must recognize, and you can tell me better than I can, right? If you know, but your breast milk changes not only for each child that you have, but your breast milk actually changes as far as day to day, depending on what your child needs. So when your child and you are sharing oxytocin and all this other stuff, you're also having communication to where if your child is sick, your body will say, wow, the child, last time they latched on, I sense that they're sick with this and that or whatever. So they will change the breast milk and it will even give you signals. You'll still have cravings and you'll have a signal sent like, oh, I need to eat more of this, or I need to eat more of this, or I need to eat more of this, so that your breast milk would then say, okay, cool, we need to turn into more of this and turn into more of this and turn into more of this so that you can feed the child. That means that if you're giving a baby formula, even if you want to get past who it was designed for, it's not going to help your baby the way it's supposed to, because all it can give is basic. It's going to give like the basic necessity, the basic building blocks of life. It doesn't even really give that. It's not giving all the magnesium and things that are done. It's coming with poisons and things that are in there as well, right? Certain things that they have to do to the powder because, food is supposed to go bad. If you eat natural food, comprehend that natural food will go bad from time to time. But you're taking formula that can sit on the shelf sometimes for years, right? If you eat the danger of McDonald's food is not the fact that all the other stuff you're talking about. The fact that one of the most dangerous things is that it cannot die. At least it used to not be able to die at all. They say they changed the formula. recognize they didn't say they changed the recipe, they changed the formula, right? So you were eating something that was formulaic, but not something that's supposed to die. Anything that really has life has the ability to die if it's not used correctly. We would call that sin. Yeah, you said they found metals in formula, of course, right? Matter of fact, when you eat, like they still do the same thing. They get you caught on metals and all this stuff, and you eat metals when you get older. Like, one of the things if I'm not careful, and I don't even like the taste of it, but it's just because I'm addicted to the stuff in it. If I were to come upon and eat one of them, what do they call it, little Debbie snacks? For real. Like, let me just keep it 100. Like them little Debbie snacks. If I were to eat some of that, like I would just keep eating and eating and eating. You know why? Because you're addicted to a lot of stuff that comes in it, including the fact it's nostalgic because it's got metals and a lot of stuff you were eating when you were little, when you first started, even if you were on breast milk, when you started getting off of it, there's a lot of metal and stuff you were eating. Like there's titanium in some of them little Debbie snacks. We don't even know. But your body does need metals to be able to exist. So it's not like you can't eat metals, but you should only be eating a certain amount, right? Yeah. Well, you don't like them at all. I'm glad you don't. I'm just saying, like, if it's, I'm just saying, I don't even necessarily like them at all anymore. But yeah, like if I had one of them little oatmeal type cookies or whatever they call it, I don't even remember what they are. But yeah, I probably like start eating them up. You see one of those holes, well, I know Twinkies not little Debbie, but a lot of people like Twinkies, stuff like that. Like they're giving you fake stuff, and your mind is like, okay, well, I like the sugar rush, so I'll deal with the other stuff. And now your mind starts thinking natural. So like naturally your body needs metals like magnesium or copper or things like that. So your body might see a little bit of copper and goes, oh, okay, I need that. And now it starts saying, well, where's the sugar rush? So now you don't want to eat stuff unless it gives you the sugar rush. Your body says, okay, cool, I'm getting this copper, but where's my sugar rush? Okay, I don't want this anymore. Right? A lot of us eating stuff has got to be filled with ketchup. Right? Ketchup, one of the most diabolical things ever. Way more sugar in ketchup than there's tomatoes. Then somebody gives you natural tomatoes or natural ketchup, and you're like, oh, what is this? I don't like this. Because you've never had actual ketchup. You've had sugar with the color red, with a tiny bit of tomato thrown in there, so legally they could say it's tomato. I'm saying all this to say that we have no self-control. We have nothing that governs self. We're ready to talk about gun control, but the thing that should govern the guns is the self. I don't know if anybody caught that, right? That's the main point, is that we talk about gun control, but we have nothing to govern the self. The self governs the gun. The self governs you. The self governs your children. You have it in your mind that as soon as your child is able, some of y'all can't wait. Y'all were talking about it during COVID. I heard the comments, right? I heard the comments out there. I heard the comments out there. I heard them like, I can't wait till these babies get back in school. I thought that I really liked to. Like, sometimes you got to be alone and this and that or whatever. You telling me you can't go outside and just sit on the porch and be alone? Why your child got to be sent to school? You were in a perfect position to make sure that you taught your child, and instead of that, you were upset because you had to be in the same place as your child. There's no self government, and these are the children that you can't wait to put back in school. Right, and if the shoe fits, wear it. If it don't, take it off. All right. But these are the same children that a lot of us are talking about. We can't wait to send back to school, and then try to figure out what in the world's going on. What's going on? Why are guns up here? We need gun control. No, you need self-control. I hear you, God loves you. Yeah, everybody's mad because I attacked the ketchup. I'm just saying, I don't like ketchup, you know, anyways. Um, Never really have, and probably just because it's too sweet for me. I actually like bitter a lot of times more than sweet, which can be a bad thing too. They'll play on that too, or like, I'm more salty than sugar type thing. So they'll catch you on that. But nevertheless, what I'm trying to get across is like it's the self that governs, right? It's the self that governs. Self-government, self-control. Both 18-year-olds had basically no parental supervision. That's what happened. That's what happened. for real, is that you had both 18-year-olds that basically had no self-control, nothing put in them, nothing embedded in them that said self. We want to go to gun control. Where is the self-control? Like one of the things that makes me frustrated. Look, can I be frustrated? Can I take off my pastor for a second, right? And just be real. Hopefully I'm real anyways. But you know what I'm saying? Like for real, for real. Y'all gonna have to forgive me. I'm taking the mask off. People be wearing that church mask off. I'm gonna take off this SOC mask for a second and put it to the side, right? So y'all forgive me. I know I'm not supposed to. I know I'm supposed to represent SOC well all the time. But I'm gonna just speak. I'm gonna speak plainly. Like I said, I don't know how long it's gonna go today, but I'm gonna just speak. I'm not sure how many comments I'm gonna get to at this point. Y'all just gonna have to roll with me for a second. Prayerfully, the signal is gonna stay intact because I'm just gonna go. It upsets me. It upsets me when I hear black folk falling into the same rhetoric that white folk do. Um, when I hear black folk go being on their sambo stuff and they don't even know, but they've been on the plantation for so long that it sounds great. It sounds really nice to be like, well, before we can talk about white people killing us, we got to talk about black people killing each other. We killing each other in Chicago. Chicago, that's always the main one, right? Sister Tamara probably tired of hearing that. She up in that area. Sister Miko, she on. Y'all always hearing, Brother Rob, you listening. Oh, man, Chicago, Chicago, Chicago. Well, in Raleigh, we be killing. Well, in Atlanta, we be killing each other. Well, in LA, you be killing each other. Oaktown, we be killing each other. You hear over in Portland, we be killing each other, all this stuff, right? In DC, and we'll pick whichever 5 boroughs in New York you want. Always hearing that, right? Always hearing that. And I'm like, okay. So when you say stop killing each other, what is the system we're gonna put in place? Stop killing each other. It's easy to scream out gun control. Where's your? We're gonna live together. Everything's gonna pull up. Okay, cool. When we live together, what is your system? We're gonna get together. We're gonna march the streets. And we're gonna fight the police officers. Oh, for reals? Y'all regimented like that? The police in a city, in a town, they might roll 500, you know, 1,000 deep, depending on how big the city is. And they come in there with weapons that they use. Like, you got to comprehend, they're coming there with stuff ready for war. You're not ready for war, right? You're not ready for war. You talk a big game. You ain't ready for war. You're not ready for this. You don't have a mindset of this. Who are you dealing? Like, see, you don't respect. And it's gonna sound wild that I'm saying this. I don't have love or matter of fact, let me put it like this. I don't like or support the devil in any way, shape, or form, right? But I respect the devil. And y'all gonna be mad at that, right? But hear out what I'm saying. Get the context of what I'm saying. Contextual facts. We ain't just laying out facts without context, context without facts. I can't stand the devil, but I respect the devil. And a lot of y'all don't respect the devil, and he's waxing us because of it. Y'all want to call the devil whatever you want, right? The devil is one that devalues people at the end of the day. That's the easiest way to lay out what the devil is somebody who devalues people. So whatever devils you want to talk about, you don't respect your devil or your devils. And your devils are beating the brakes off your people. And you're sitting up there telling these young boys and these young girls that all they got to do is wear their natural hair and that's it. And the devils is waxing them because they still devalue. And you're sitting up there talking about as long as they have companies and they pay their taxes, and the devils are waxing them. And you're still out there because you don't respect your devils. This system belongs to your devils. That's why you got to be in it, but not of it. When you go into the devil's system, you need to know what the devil does. And you need to know how the devil operates. You don't know how the devil operates. You don't care how the devil operates. You don't care that the devil has power. You don't care that when you sitting up there speaking in tongues, right? And I'm not saying we're for speaking in tongues, all right? That's not what I'm talking about. We are for speaking in tongues. Let me say it one more again. We are for speaking in tongues, right? Tongues edifies the person personally, and prayerfully that person either can somebody's there to interpret. If not, then that's not meant for everybody. But we still ain't gonna interrupt it. If somebody's getting what they need from the Most High, you speak in tongues, you flow, right? But don't sit up here and give this weird stuff, like give energy to this weird stuff. Like I've heard people in other church, well, we're not a church, but in other organizations, and I've heard people in church and stuff I've come from where they'll be sitting up there talking about, I wish I had a church that prayed in tongues, which first of all, everybody ain't gifted to speak in tongues. Secondly, they'd be like, well, even when we speak in tongues, I have this gift to speak in tongues. And when I speak in tongues, I wish people would comprehend it when you speak. I've heard people say this: when you speak in tongues, the devil can't understand you. The devil gets flustered, this and that or whatever. Do you know that before you were even created, or before you were even on this earth, the devil could speak in every tongue that you can speak? At least most of them. There are certain tongues that not everybody can speak in, including, well, the most I can speak in every tongue, but including whoever you think the greatest tongue speaker is. Some of them are limited as far as what they can actually speak. The Bible talks on that, right? Paul talks about that he wishes there were some things he could even share, but not all tongues are for everybody, right? But I'm getting to a whole other thing, right? But we don't have respect for our enemy. Amen, LaFay. How you doing? Right? Like, respect the enemy. Am I saying that the right way? LaFay, I'm not sure. Lafayette. But you ain't got no respect for your enemy. And the devil's waxing you because you walk into his system every day. And every day you thinking, I'm going to just walk out. And because I walk out here, he can't touch me. And I'm going to touch this. I'm going to touch that. Lay hands on no man suddenly. Don't walk into situation suddenly. Where's your mindset at? You are at war. People don't want to hear this, but you are at war. You know why you're at war? Because you're in enemy territory. That's what war is. War is when we going into enemy territory and we're trying to take it. If we ain't trying to take it, then we shouldn't be over there. But you don't colonize. You don't colonize. You hear what I'm saying? You don't colonize. You don't gentrify. And then you get mad at your enemy because they colonize and they gentrify. What are you in this battle for if you're not going to colonize and gentrify? Where's your self-control? Before there's self-control of self, you have to have a sense of self. Remember, we talked about this earlier, that the only things that are being protected by a system is anything that is considered to be them, considered to be self. Why are you not being protected? Because you're in a system that's told you from the beginning that you do not count. Yet you keep waiting for a system to tell you that you can. Now, one of the things I saw flying around on TikTok early this rising is that, oh, the people are putting pressure on Biden, and they want Biden on Juneteenth to create a to write out a reparations bill, and the reparations bill, they want him to do it by executive order. Do you not recognize that the only way executive orders, like, people don't know how law works? This is why it's infuriating and frustrating. Oh, hey, how you doing, Miss May? Like, people won't study. If the president makes an executive order, the only way he can make an executive order is because of martial law. Every time, so if an executive order has to happen, it has to happen because they will enact martial law. Now, you're still under martial law. You've been under martial law since the Emancipation Proclamation and don't even know it. That's the only reason the Emancipation Proclamation could happen, is because the Union said we'll make it martial law when we take back our states, and when we force some of these states to give up their slaves, even though we'll pay the slave owners reparations. But when we force them to give it up, we have to do so via martial law, because nobody's going to do it just because. So we've got to allow the military to do it. That's what happened. And you're still under that. As long as the Emancipation Proclamation, 13th Amendment, 14th Amendment, all this stuff started happening, martial law has to be there. You are still under martial law, right? But the only way this executive order, so whenever a president, or, well, let me put it like this. I'm sorry, I'm not explaining it 100% correct. Sorry. Long story short, because I'm getting into the weeds of stuff. Some of this stuff you probably wouldn't even get with sovereignty one, sovereignty two. Some of this stuff is like way deep in there. If I can say it like this: whenever a president writes an executive order, any executive order that's been written by any of them, I don't care if it was Obama, Trump, and Biden now, and before that Bush, and before that Clinton, and before that Bush, and before that Reagan, and before that Carter, and we can keep on going back, right? I don't care which one wrote it, right? Well, maritime law reigns supreme when you go into the other stuff as far as countries and their fight and stuff like that, or where stuff is. They all kind of work together. But I feel you, Chris, or chill pill. But I would say this. Um, I want you to recognize this. That's a great point by you. That's, we going into the weeds on that one too. So I will pull it back. So, but I would say this: every time that any executive order has been ever written, you've been under you've been under uh now I'm getting my stuff mixed up, not maritime law, but ah what gosh, not maritime law, not executive order, but martial law. There we go. Anytime an executive order's been written, right, you've been under martial law. Period. If they, especially if they enforced it, if the federal government said we're going to go into different places and enforced it, it was martial law, right? It was martial law. That's what it was. Martial law, right? And if you want to do some real research, right? If you want to just do some reason, now this isn't me saying you're gonna find exact law, blah blah, and you're gonna find this particular thing in the USC and the UCC and all that stuff. If you want to do some real research, I want you to pray about how close martial and marital are, not only in spelling but even in meaning. Are there some things in your marriages that are martial, and are some things in martial that are marriage? That's a homework assignment for you, right? But getting back to what we were saying, martial law. So if you're asking for the president to say via martial law, executive order, right, that I want reparations, that means that you're saying that the government is going to have martial law, right? And I'm sorry, I'm sorry. When I said martial marital being spelled the same, well, never mind. If you do some research, you're talking about. Long story short, right? When we talk about martial law, that's what we're dealing with, right? So, right. So like when you look this stuff up, because martial law basically supposedly involves the temporary substitution of military authority for civilian rule, right? That's what martial law is. So what you're saying is give me reparations by having the military take over. That's what you're asking for in an executive order. But people don't know how law works, right? People are not aware that that's what you're asking for. Hey, if the president writes down reparations, now even when he does, I already you got to comprehend. They're not going to say that they're going to force it anyways. What they're going to say is what really is going to happen is if they do it, right? I don't even think it's going to happen, but hey, whatever. If it does happen, the only thing that Biden's going to do is he's going to write down on a piece of paper that all states should look into making sure that reparations are given out. And you know what happens after that? All the states get to decide what their version of reparations are, which means that you ain't about to get nothing. Oh, well, they might make sure that everybody gets a job. Everybody that has a job is toiling. Everybody that's toiling is basically either one step away from slavery and indentured servitude as being a serf, or you already are a slave. And if you have debt, if you got to pay taxes, then you're still at debt. If anything, the reparations that you want more than anything else, I promise you. Like, see, people don't worry about self. The reparations that you would want, because they're not gonna give you the land. That would be it. Like if they gave us land, look, real talk. If they said they give my people land and just to make sure that we had electricity or solar energy, that's enough. You can build stuff on your own. If this is your land, it's private land, and you got solar energy. We could figure the rest out. I'd sleep outside under the sun and bake all day if you gave me land. I ain't gonna bake because of this melanin, right? And I gotta be careful, you're not finding shade and stuff. But I'm just saying, right? Like I wouldn't if they said we'll give you land and solar energy, I would say thank you very much. Because I can build homes, right? We can build temporary latrines and build sewage stuff. We can find water, right? It rains. We can do what we gotta do. Okay. Like, but give me land and give me something. The only reason I say solar energy is because nowadays, pretty much if you're gonna make stuff work, you gotta have electricity. Right. But here, but comprehend, like, if you're probably not gonna get that. So the main thing that you would be asking for as far as reparations, you know what you would want? You would say, okay, make sure I don't have to pay taxes. See, we got this thing twisted. Once again, we're looking for all this extra stuff. No, make sure I don't have to pay taxes. Because if I don't have to pay taxes, then I'm not in debt. If I'm not in debt, then I'm not a slave. Well, if you already know about what I'm saying as far as like, so, well, if you're sovereign, if you make sure that you're sovereign, you make sure your land is private, your land is allodial. If your land is allodial, then you don't owe taxes on anything. People pay taxes because they just don't know how to make sure that they govern themselves. You have the right to be able to tell the government, like, if your land is yours, if it's your land, you own a bundle of rights. The way I normally explain it, even though it's not a great explanation, but the way I explain it is normally like if you can own everything from the sky to underneath the ground, because sometimes they have you sign these contracts and these deeds and you don't even know that you don't own the stuff, right? Some places you'll buy the land but you don't, or you'll buy the house but not realize you don't own the land, or maybe you own the land up top but you don't realize, like, if they find oil underneath it, then they can take the land from you because they own underneath the land, so they can drill even next to your home or whatever, right? Like they can mess up your house and the way that you live, or like, so if something's allodial, if it's yours, then you can do whatever you want on it. And if somebody tries to tell you to pay taxes to a government on something that's yours, that's allodial, you can tell them to kick rocks. So that part of it is actually pretty simple. All you do is you just make sure you get that DS-11 done. Once your birth certificate is redone correctly, like, once we get that done, once again, you got to do it correctly. Because people just get a new birth certificate and try to like find some weird way to fill in sovereign. No, you got to do it correctly. There's a certain way you got to do it. They make it hard. But I'm just saying, like, once you do that, your land is allodial. It belongs to you. The problem, once again, though, is that we have it in a place to where we're supposed to be governed by others. Before gun control, before gun rights, you need to know self rights. What is your right? What's the right to your land? Do you have right to your land? Because if you have right to your land, why are you paying taxes on it? Why should you make sure you homeschool? If I homeschool my children and my children don't go to school, then why do I need to pay taxes? People try to get you in. Well, your child needs to make sure that they're into sports and doing this and blah blah. So make sure they join a sports team. And even if you homeschool, make sure that they get into sports. There's AAU teams. Why are you trying to get part of the system? Well, if you do AAU, you got to pay for the uniforms, blah blah. If you do public school sports, you got to pay for the uniform. You see what I'm saying? They're trying to trick you into thinking that you need to be controlled by the government, right? But you don't. There's nothing that says that you have to pay taxes on anything. You pay taxes for what you're attached to. You pay taxes on benefits and privileges. You said, is it possible not to make birth certificate? Yeah, you don't have to have a birth certificate for any child. Now, I will say you could make a birth certificate work to your benefit. So I wouldn't necessarily be against the birth certificate, but if you have a birth certificate, just make sure you know how to use it. But if you don't have a birth certificate, but once again, you've got to have a place to where you can make sure that that was there. 'Cause all you have to do is have proof that the child was born. The reason why they want you now, they'll take away a lot of stuff. They'll be like, well, if your child doesn't have a birth certificate, they can't go to school. What can be prepared to homeschool? Matter of fact, if you move to certain states, there's certain states where they don't care. I mean, they'll say that they care, but technically, there's certain states they don't really care if you homeschool your child or not. I mean, I'll make sure you homeschool your child. Yes. Every state is a government. Every state is a country. The word country and state are the same thing. Enemy of if somebody does something bad against the United States of America, guess what they're called? They're called an enemy of the state. How do you use a birth certificate? All I'm saying as far as a birth certificate is that if you wanted to go somewhere and somebody tried to legally say, oh, you're a person of the United States corporation, you would just say no. Like, for example, if you're born in California and they said, oh yeah, you're a citizen of the United States, you would say, no, I'm a Californian. You write on all your stuff whenever it says country and all that, you put in other California. It's legal. If you're from New York, I'm a New Yorker, right? If you're from Maryland, I'm a Marylander. If you're from Florida, I'm a Floridian. Right? I don't know what you call a Tennessee person, Tennessean, I think. Right? If I'm from North Dakota, I'm North Dakota. If I'm from South Dakota, I'm South Dakota. Right? Yeah, I don't know. I was just thinking about Illinois. I don't know what Illinois is, right? If I'm from Indiana, Indiana's weird one. I thought it was like an Indianian or something, but it's something even like more convoluted. But regardless, like you just all you gotta do is fill out the state that you're from, because the state is a country. It's the United States of America. So the birth certificate, if you get a birth certificate, all you gotta do is say like the birth certificate proves you're born here. So that it actually proves you were born in a state or a country. You're just not claiming the United States corporation. You're claiming the country you come from. It's all. I mean, it's a legal thing. We just don't know, right? Exactly. Native. When somebody says I'm a native New Yorker, now technically we could even go deeper with native this and that because our people are from here. But nevertheless, like if you say I'm a native whatever, you're saying that I'm native, I'm born here, so and I have a birth certificate. But they don't have a birth certificate. Here's a simple way. You ready? Legally speaking, here's a simple way. If you don't do a birth certificate, your baby born in the bathtub or something like that. Some women do tubs or pools or different things like that, or do it in the home and turn down the lights. By the way, that's a great thing to do. Please turn down the lights when these babies are born, because we're blinding them when they're born. They haven't seen light yet, except for little flashes of stuff here and there going on inside mom. But outside of that, they haven't really seen. They don't know what light is, and it really hurts them. So let them come into a dark environment. You'd be surprised they'll probably cry and be cry a lot less and be a lot less irritated with just allowing them not to be blinded. But okay, it is that Illinoisian. Okay, cool. So yeah, so you're saying you're born there, right? And that's what the 14th Amendment. 14th Amendment is a bad thing, but also it works to your benefit if you know how law works. Because 14th Amendment says, well, if you're born here, then you got to be part of the United States of America. It's like, oh, protect me. But if you're born once again without a birth certificate, let's say you decide not to be born with a birth certificate, or you don't want your child to be born with a birth certificate, I think most babies, if they could comprehend, would probably not want to automatically be part of a fake corporation. But let's say you're born here and you decide that your child is born here and you decide you don't want to have a birth certificate for that child. All you do is you make sure that you have video evidence. Take a video, take pictures, and then you get affidavits. Or probably preferably the doula. Maybe you have a couple doulas. Maybe you have your mother there, possibly grandmother, somebody, sisters. Maybe have some friends of stuff, and just have them be there. As bad as I'm not saying they gotta watch the baby come out, but have them be around to see that a baby comes in, right? Have them hear the baby and stuff, and have them sign affidavits. Affidavits are solid, right? Even if they don't show up in the courtroom, an affidavit is powerful. You have all these witnesses, affidavits, some or whatever, some of them saying physically they saw it, etc. And you get all these things lined up. And from that point on, anytime somebody says, "Well, that baby wasn't born," blah blah, you say, "Oh, the baby was born, but they were born." And here's the stuff. And then what they're going to try to do, they're going to try to say you have to have a birth certificate, you have to have a social security number. Exactly, where two or three are gathered. That's why we tell people all the time, even if you don't like the Bible, you should recognize what it says, because all they've done with this law is they've taken biblical law and they perverted it. They're trying to get you to go away from what biblical law says about freedom, and they're trying to get you to be serfs or straight up slaves. So if you realize what's going on, right? If you realize what's going on, all you have to do is say, okay, like anytime the government comes up, you got to have a birth certificate. No, I don't. But you're not going to be able to get a job without a birth certificate. Actually, that's not true. But yeah, okay, fine. Now, if I would be honest about things, and this is when you got to get in the private stuff too. If I be honest about things, if you want that baby to travel to certain places, we might have an issue. However, even in that, now I'm not as versed in this part yet. I'm learning, but I'm not as versed as I need to be yet. So take what I'm saying with a grain of salt and study what you need to study. All right, being fully admitting I don't 100% know what I'm about to say. So I'm not intimate all the way with the details of this. I am aware that there's a way where you can get a passport without having a birth certificate or a social security number. I'm aware that there is a way to do it. I do not know how to do it. So as far as my knowledge is, until that day comes, you might be limited unless you, once again, here's private. If you own a private plane, if you own a private boat, you might be able to go ahead and make that happen. Or if you have private land, on your private land where you can make your own bylaws. See where land is important? You can have people come onto the land, that baby can live there, that private land, private ownership and stuff. You can have bylaws that says that you can make up your own picture ID. You make a picture ID for them there, right? Recognizing them as a citizen on your land, because you can make up your own UCC on your own land. A lot of people don't notice that. So you have them there, you make up your own UCC, you put in there that you do that stuff or whatever. All you gotta do is do this or whatever. And then guess what you do? Like then you take that, and now they got a picture ID. They can take that picture ID, and if somebody's willing to, hey, you can go on a public boat or a private plane, or sorry, a private boat or private plane, and you can still travel if you own your own boat. See, but it goes into privacy. That's owners. You got to have your own. Like a lot of people don't think about this, but guess what? If Leonardo DiCaprio right now, if Samuel L. Jackson right now, if Jamie Foxx right now, if I don't know why I'm thinking about Django, I guess I just saw a person. I just realized I'm listed off everybody from Django, but whomever, right? If certain people were to get on the boat, if Jeff Bezos right now, if Elon Musk right now, if Donald Trump right now were to decide to get on a plane, whoever it is, across the board, were to decide to get on their private plane and go somewhere to another place, do you think that they're checking in and out with customs? Do you think they're checking in with customs? See what I'm saying? You're not considered to be a non-citizen national or somebody who has enough power that it doesn't matter what you are. See, the goal is to get more power, to get more land, to get more stuff, because the more you have, the less it matters. All this stuff. This fake corporation is based off of the powerful being over the poor. Even the Bible discusses, right? I'm forgetting the scripture right now. Was it Proverbs 22, 4 and 5, or 5 and 6, or 6 and 7, something on there? And it talks about how, like, people like to talk about how train up a child in the way that they should go, so when they get old, they will not depart from it. But the whole thing basically says that when you train up that child, train them up to make sure that they are the lender and not the borrower, for the borrower is always the servant to the lender. We also need to recognize, now that's not the same scripture, but we also need to recognize that the poor will be with us always. So we who are powerful, like Romans 15:1 says, those of us that are not as infirm, that aren't dealing with the mental health issues that others are, we should take on the infirmities of the weak. And just as discussed in Matthew chapter 6, verses 1 through 4, when you give alms, you should be giving alms out to people. You should be giving support. But you got to recognize, like, these cats ain't worried about checking in and making sure that their passport is seen, or that their identity is seen, or whatever. They go to a private hangar. They got places in the airport that are just for them. If they're even going to that airport, they got private airports that they go to. They have helicopters that fly down on the top of buildings. You think that when the helicopter flies down to the top of a building, that they're making sure that everybody, like, they can take whoever they want in there. If they want to take a terrorist on a helicopter, they could. They don't care. Who's gonna check them? The government's not, because the government works for them. And people say, oh, this is when you get into conspiracy theory. Look up the definition of capitalism. Capitalism is defined as a system in which politics and economics are used to control trade industry. That trade industry is wielded by private corporations and not the state, which means that the state is subservient to the private corporations. Do you not know that they can't even make laws, and all these amendments and all these different things you're talking about, as far as martial law and executive orders and all this stuff? They can't even make those unless they have people who are part of the corporations. Like, the corporations have to sit down. Yeah, some own a plane. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's private. It's all private. When Bill Gates goes from here to Africa and then from Africa back to be able to say how Africans need to start killing their babies, when he goes to do that, comprehend that that's all private, right? He don't got to explain to you how much it cost. He didn't have to check in with the government, the American government, to see if it was okay. He didn't have to see, is it okay if I follow COVID protocols? He didn't care about none of that. It's his. If it's private, it's yours. You said you're gonna have your private airstrip on your own land. Hey, y'all bless you. If he called you for it and you said that he's called you to do some great things, then hey, you got to have everything you're supposed to have. But this is what we're saying, and people don't invest in that. If we knew that, we invest a lot more in ourselves than we do now. So that's why I'm saying, before we get to gun control, before we talk about marital control, before we talk about control of children, where's your self-control? Where is your government? How you doing, Sister Helen? Where is your government? That's why we need to build stuff. The more that you have, the less somebody gonna tell you what to do. Real talk. The more that you have, the less somebody's gonna tell you what to do. That's in every arena of life, right? People talk a whole lot of smack or whatever, right? And I'm not saying I'm the greatest fighter to ever live. I'm not. But people talk a whole lot of smack, right? And then they get in front of my face and they don't believe me until they see me up front. And they find out, oh, he really is 6'5.5". He really is about 270, 280, 290. Right? And when it's time for me to go, people be surprised. Oh, wait a minute, he can move too. And I'm not even as athletic as I used to be, because I'm starting to just now get back into my exercise regimen somewhat. But I'm not even as but people, what I'm saying is, in all that, because I'm just a couple inches bigger than somebody, a lot of times people will back down. I'm not saying it to say back down for me. I'm trying to get you to comprehend, when you got more, people usually will be like, okay. I've heard a lot of sisters talk a lot of smack, a lot of sisters in the hood, 5'2", 5'3", talking a lot of smack. They gonna smash this girl, this and that, or whatever. And then no girls show up and she like 5'11", about 250. And they, even some of the baddest sisters out there, recognize that 5'2" probably ain't gonna like 5'2". I get you, you courageous and everything, but we ain't mad at you if you live to fight another day. And what I'm saying is, you got to get bigger. Y'all still, the diaspora's got to get bigger. He said Stockton never had much on the mailman. That's interesting. I was laughing at that. I was watching. There's this thing called I forget what the channel is on YouTube, but now that you mentioned that, you might want to look at it. It's actually interesting because you might be into sports. It talks about sports beef between people, and then it has something else they've ventured into as well, talking about why people never won championships. It talks about John Stockton and Carmelo. I was watching that like 2 days ago. But anyways, I'm just trying to tell you that you've got more. When you have more, people mess with you less. When people watch this, when you have more, people say less. People be like, say less. When you have more, people say less. You hear what I'm saying? Like, when people say more, or I'm sorry, and watch this. Like, I need you to recognize, like, so when people have more, they will say less. Not when people say more, when people have more. And they've taught you to say more. And I've got to say a lot. I see how this can even be something that feels like it's double-minded, because I have to say a lot, but that's why I keep bringing to the table, like, let's give more, let's have classes, let's do this, let's support businesses, let's grow in this way, let's grow in that way, let's call each other, let's connect. Even today, before I leave, I'm gonna try my best to see if a couple people, even if it's just for 15, 20 minutes, can I meet up with you real quick? Can I meet up with you real quick? I'm in your area, this and that, or whatever. Like, we're trying to have a mindset of have more, invest more, make sure your community has more. And this now is a problem, because I get it also, that we've had a lot of leadership that is either A, just lied and messed us over, B, have been killed for doing what's righteous, or C, are just ill-equipped for what they're talking about. They're talking great stuff, but they're ill-equipped. But so I recognize what I'm saying can be difficult to be into, right? But you got to have more in order for people to say less, right? We got to have more so people can say less. And we're missing more. The devil comes that he might steal. Is it John 10:10? I'm probably giving the wrong scripture. Let me look up John 10:10. I feel like that's not correct, right? But wait a minute, sorry. There's so many windows that be open on this stuff. Let's see if I can go John 10. Let's see what pops up. Is that John 10:10? There it goes, right? The thief cometh not but for to steal and to kill and to destroy. I am come. See, some people even say I have come. No, I am come. That they might have life and that they might have it more abundantly. But that word it is in italics, so really would say they might have more abundantly. Right? You got to have more for them to say less. The thief comes. But the thief, what the thief doesn't matter as much if you have more. Right? Let's go to Proverbs real quick. See, this is stuff that we don't talk about in our Bible, and people be getting messed up. You be getting thumped upside your head, trying to figure out what's going on. Right? Let's go to Proverbs chapter 1. We're just gonna go to Proverbs chapter 1. All right. I said read your Bible to bless you, right? These are things that we've said before. So I'm just repeating things for some of you that we talked about before. But if you let's read our Bible so that it can bless us, all right? Proverbs chapter 1. I'm gonna start at verse 1, but we're gonna stop at verse 3. Actually, no, you know what? Amen. We're gonna keep reading. Here's the stuff that's there. Focus on yourself and on your community so that your community can grow. Yeah, real powerful people just nod their head. Sorry for missing that comment. Yeah, you don't really gotta at a certain point, if you're powerful enough, you ain't really gotta people go into this whole thing, explain yourself and do this and blah blah. At a certain point, like, look, man, like look at my life. It explains enough. Okay, Sister Bree. Well, hopefully everything's well. Praying that you stay safe out there. If you're in traffic, make sure that you on the other side of incoming traffic. I ain't trying to hear nothing bad about our brothers and sisters out there. All right, peep game. Y'all ready? This is Proverbs. This is Proverbs right here. You guys ready? This is Proverbs, written by wise King Solomon, and he writes this based upon things that he got from his father, married it with the wiseness of the Most High. Havak Hakodash comes upon him. He writes out this excellent journey that we call the Proverbs. Okay. All right. Cool. All right. Here we go. Proverbs chapter 1, verse 1. It says, the Proverbs of Solomon, the son of David. David means what? Beloved, right? So the Proverbs of wisdom, the son of beloved. Wisdom comes out of being beloved. That's a whole thing within itself. King of Yashtel. So these Proverbs come from wisdom. This wisdom comes from beloved. This beloved is who sat on the throne of Israel. Verse 2, to know, to be intimate with wisdom and instruction. So this is what this is written for, to be intimate with wisdom or to know wisdom and instruction. Don't be out here talking about you got dominion and that which is wise and you can't follow instructions. To know wisdom and instruction, to perceive, this is etymology, to perceive the words of understanding. How do you stand under a word that you don't perceive? How do you stand under a word and you don't recognize the etymology? How do you stand under a word and you don't have proper interpretation? How do you get proper interpretation without proper culture? Here's the verse I want y'all to see before we even go further than this. Verse 3, to receive the instruction of wisdom, justice, and judgment. Wait a minute. So to receive, you gotta be willing to take on what? Instruction of wisdom, not just any instruction, but instruction that comes from a domain where wise things take place. We even have on our YouTube channel 12 Pillars of Wisdom playlist, right? So if you want to go back and listen to that, we went through 12 pillars of just wisdom. Okay. So what? To receive the instruction, wisdom, justice, and judgment for people that say we can't judge, right? If you can't be judged, why is it that you got to receive judgment? You can't read the book of Proverbs if you say that you can't be judged. See how this stuff starts limiting you? You don't even know what you're talking about. We're having a weird place, right? But to receive the instruction of wisdom, justice, and judgment. But here's the word that we don't even talk about in your assemblies, in your churches, in your mosque, in your temples, in your places where you chant, in the places that your sutra is given, in the places that your surah is given, in the place, et cetera, right? It says in verse 3 that you need to receive instruction of wisdom, justice, and judgment. But then wait a minute, there's a fourth word. It says, and equity. Would you need gun control laws if you had equity? I think this is a serious question. Now, depending on whose version of this you want to go by, I would go by our version. The word here that they use is mayashavar. Mayashavar. That's a lot, right? Well, we need it if we had equity. Mayashavar, they have it as like mesar or masar, right, which is more modern. Nevertheless, the meaning of it, this is what equity is. Before we even get into the financial piece, equity is evenness, to be even. How you doing, Miss Southern Charm? Equity means to be upright. Equity means straightness. I'm not getting off track if I'm going to be in equity. It even can represent smoothness, and it can even mean rightly, as in rightly dividing the word of truth. Now, these are all things that are in the word. Now let's look up the definition of equity, a modern definition of equity, because we don't talk about equity, but it says that in Proverbs, you've got to know about equity, or else what you're going to do. Here you are reading Proverbs, talking about Proverbs, why is this, why is King Solomon, and you've never looked at the definition of equity. But he says you can't talk about Proverbs without talking about equity. It's in the third verse. This is written for instructions of wisdom, and right. Let's just read it again real quick. It says it's about what? It's about. I'm sorry. Right? Let's just read what it says. Read your Bible to bless you. It says, this is to receive the instruction of wisdom, justice, and judgment, and equity. So, what's the definition of equity? Equity, right? Let me see, because I want a few different definitions. Okay. Equity, the quality of being fair and impartial. Okay. Equity, the value of the shares issued by a company. That's talking about investing. Are you invested? How much are you invested? Are you invested, and how much are you invested? It says the value of mortgage property after deduction of charges against it. Equity, mortgage, land. It says in the US, UK, and several other countries, it is a trade union to which most professional actors belong. They have to have an equity card. Isn't that interesting that every other system and everybody else got equity, but we don't? That's right in the book of Proverbs. But you talking about gun control, you have no equity. I mean, somebody help me. If I'm wrong, right? Look it up. Tell me if I'm wrong. But your Bible says you're supposed to be talking about equity. That's why Proverbs 13:22, you missed that. Proverbs 13:22, it says specifically, you always talk about the wealth of the wicked is laid up for the just, but that's the end of the verse. The first part of the verse says that you got to take care of your children's children, and then the wealth of the wicked is laid up for the just, because the wicked have more sense than us, right? These people that you don't respect, these devils that you talk about that you don't respect, but they have more respect for their children because they leave generational wealth. Somebody says, well, they took generational wealth. You don't even think about generational wealth. I would think about it, but I don't have the ability to have it. Have you ever once to yourself said to yourself, I'm going to start investing even if it's $5 a month, and I'm going to do it from the time my child is born? Before there was a such thing as Bitcoin, which is the OG of cryptocurrency, even though before Bitcoin there were other virtual coins you could have used. Well, not coins per se, but virtual ways of using money, right? Like e-currency, things like that. But even besides that, you could have invested in stocks. Stocks did not come into existence when Bitcoin came. We as a people don't believe in investing. We don't believe in investing in stuff for ourselves. When I go back to high school and stuff that I went to a very nice place, even though, I wasn't, wealthy like everybody. Well, not everybody, but a lot of the children there, they had homes, they had all this stuff owned, they had cars, they had all this stuff. But like a lot of people, when I go back there, that school, I was going to school in trailers and stuff like that in the back and stuff. That school is laid out, and it was considered to be like the worst school, even though for me it was heads above anything else I ever been. I've been to PS11 in New York. you know, I've been to I forget the name of the school I went to for in PG County, right? PG County is considered to be the greatest places to go to school. Went to a lot of different places all over the place. But then when I went over to Northern Virginia, at the time, top 3% of schools in the nation. That's when my father worked real hard to make sure that we can go there for high school. And I went there. I went back there. That place was considered to be ghetto in that place. When I go back there now, I mean, solar energy things up to the heavens. You know, every board is like stuff that like was jacked up and falling off are now things that are like virtually showing pictures of all this different stuff. Their football stadium is like they got a football stadium. We had a football place where the stands were falling apart, but they invest. People that went there, they come back and they invest. They don't just show up for a high school reunion and that's it. Like they invest. They make sure that generations that come after them will have better experiences than they do. Where is that for us? I'm not saying we need to go back to the times of segregation, but in segregation, you know what? You took care of your schools better than you do now. Here's one of the lies that you were told is that all your schools during segregation were all bad. Nobody cared about your schools during segregation outside of yourself. So you guess who cared about them? Guess who had to clean them? Guess who had to give money towards it? You did. All right, Minister Sonia, have a great one. That's why your stuff was better taken care of back then. You had to take care of it, nobody else. So you did. You had to honor it. So you did. Guess what? Somebody had to make sure that there was some kind of transportation. So guess who owned your bus companies? You did. Somebody had to make sure you get to and from. So guess who owned your train companies? You did. Guess what? If somebody wanted you to learn about people that were powerful and impactful in your community and people that looked like you, guess what? They might have taught you about you because you were your own teacher. I'm not saying segregation is the way. Even when we get our own land, we ain't trying to segregate. We're not saying that somebody that just because they're white they can't live on the land either. But anybody who's coming on there, you're gonna be like minded. And by the way, not just anybody gonna be able to come on there, including themselves, just because it's private, allodial, land under our, we're the custodians of it. That's why you do that. That's why you do that, right? There's nothing wrong. See, look, there's nothing wrong with Chinatown, is there? Is there anything wrong with Chinatown? Of course not. There's nothing wrong with there's nothing wrong with Little Haiti, is there? Of course not. I don't like this term, right? Because I know it's offensive, but I get it. Like, there's nothing wrong with Jewtown. There's nothing wrong with Little Italy. There's nothing wrong with Little Havana. Have all those that you want in your town, in your city, right? Guess what? There's nothing wrong with the all-white town. If they want a sundown town, it's their town to do with what they want. Like, stop getting into that whole thing. You're in the wrong conversation. You're in the wrong argument. How dare they have sundown town? That makes me so upset. No, know that that's a town you don't deal with. Why would you deal with a sundown town anyways? Right? We're getting ready to take our lead, but I want you to get this. Before we talk about gun control, you got to talk about self-control. What do you control? What is yourself? Who is yourself? Who do you belong to? What is it that's going to cause you to thrive? Why would you be concerned about a sundown town? Don't give your money to a sundown town. Why are you trying to use your money and be in there and be like, oh, we better hurry up. We got there at 3 o'clock p.m. Everybody, we only got 2 hours before the sun gonna start going down. They're gonna start getting up. They're gonna start get it finicky. Exactly. Why go where they don't want you in the first place? Shake the dust off your feet. Exactly. Right. Like, don't get upset. Don't get frustrated by it. Say, okay, that's what it is. I'm cool with that. Right. They have Christmas holidays and stuff like that. That's what they do. You ain't got to have that. You got several holy days for yourself. you know, no matter what in the part of the African diaspora, if you want to talk about the black diaspora, if you want to talk about the POC diaspora, whatever, whichever diaspora you're talking about, you got your own stuff. The question is, why don't you have places where you make sure that you can make sure that it's yours? Why don't you have things? Why are we renting out the greatest? Why are we looking to go into European cities and saying we're going to make sure that we use your stuff to make sure that we improve what's going on? Of course, your places look ghetto. Your places look ghetto because you don't fund it. Well, I want to have a great memory. I'm not going to be the one to fund it. Well, okay, until you stop worrying about your memory having to be like, it depends on if it looks European enough, then yeah, you're going to have a problem. But there used to be a time to where your your subways look better than theirs, right? It was one of you that made up the third rail. There is no third rail if it's not for you, right? Like, you got to teach yourself and recognize what's going on. There was a time to where, the Negro leagues was way better than the major leagues. That's one of the reasons why they started taking the talent out. You think the major leagues would have came together with the Negro leagues if we weren't more talented? And if we weren't playing at a better level, we were getting together. The All-Star game used to be, instead of MLB versus or I'm sorry, not MLB, instead of it being what is it, National League versus American League, it used to be the Negro Leagues versus the Major Leagues, and the Negro Leagues used to beat them every time. They started losing money. People started to want to see the Negro Leagues. On top of that, the person with the Negro Leagues too, he had way too much on his plate, so he ended up passing away because he was too stressed out. So it was a combination of things. But long story short, the Major League started saying, "Well, hey, let's get somebody." They ended up getting Jackie Robinson. You know why they got Jackie Robinson? They got Jackie Robinson because he was somebody that knew how to play the game. Now, Jackie Robinson, and I mean not just the baseball game, but Jackie Robinson was somebody who knew how to play. He had been in the military. He knew how to say yes sir, no sir. He had enough self control to where they'd be trying to kill him and stuff like that. Like, literally, they'd be lifting up their spikes underneath, and would he be sliding into a base, trying to hurt him, trying to stab him, trying to kill him, right? Branch Rickey wasn't worried about that. He wanted to see, is there somebody that's there to do this enough so that we can hire another Negro down the road. And he didn't give Jackie Robinson a huge deal that was the greatest, deal signed in baseball either. And here's the deal: Jackie Robinson was not even considered. Some people would have told you. Now, I don't know for sure. I know Jackie Robinson was an all-star from time to time, but some people would have told you that Jackie Robinson wasn't even one of the greatest Negro League players to ever play. Like, at the time, he might have been maybe top 15, top 20, which is pretty good, I guess. But like, if you talk all-time greats, you could have they could have hired Satchel Paige. They could have hired Josh Grisham, but Josh Grisham, he was an alcoholic. So Branch Rickey knew, okay, if Josh Grisham comes in, they're going to try to say all black people are alcoholics. He couldn't play that, right? Satchel Paige, he was a show off. He would have everybody sit down. He was so sure he was going to strike somebody out. He'd just be like, "Y'all sit down for this whole inning," and he would strike everybody out. And he lied about his age. To this day, nobody really knows how old Satchel Paige actually was and where he was actually born. You know, so, like, you had all the stuff that was going on with Satchel Paige and with Josh Grisham and other people. So they just were like, you know what? We'll just go with Jackie Robinson. But Jackie Robinson wasn't even the best. Yeah, like Rosa Parks, right? Like Rosa Parks was an acceptable representation. And Rosa Parks, by the way, if you read Rosa Parks' biography and autobiography, I believe she has an autobiography too. If you read the autobiography, if she didn't write it, I know she said it, that she was a Garveyite. They lied to you about who Rosa Parks was because they wanted you to believe that, believe in that movement. And even King and them, they told the truth, like that when they won, and you could ride on the white man's bus now in the front, they had to put out paperwork to everybody that was trying to get on that bus to tell them that, oh yeah, like you might still get attacked, and if somebody tells you to go to the back of the bus, still go to the back of the bus. Like people forget how this stuff really works, or people just don't know. Yeah, but there's a lot more to this than what we might think. There's a lot more to this than what we might think. And it comes back to like, do you have knowledge of self? You know, do you have knowledge of self? Harriet Tubman, you can still go on her land today, right? I believe in it's either very high up in northern Maryland or like right in the beginning of where West Virginia starts, something like that. You can go to Harriet Tubman's land and see that she had hospitals or a hospital, excuse me. And she had places for people to stay besides her own house. She didn't just free the slaves. You said far, sir? I'm not sure what you mean. Hey, sister, right now, how you doing? Right, but you can go see the land, and on that land, she had a hospital, and she had place for people, whether they were white or black. Even though she was making sure her people were coming out of slavery, she didn't care. Like if you were about making sure people were better and stuff, or if you needed help, you still could help. But she did through what? Through a black land. Garvey, Garveyites, Garveyite, Marcus Garvey, somebody who followed teachers of Marcus Garvey. Is that what you're asking? Well, you can say Martin Luther King Jr. showed us out. I think Martin Luther King Jr. was somebody that was pretty ignorant. He was very smart and intelligent, but he's right. I'm more Malcolm than I am Martin, even though I believe in the Bible. I'm still more Malcolm than I'd say I am Martin. However, I would say like don't forget how young they both were. You know, like I think that's one of the things that we forget of the one that's down here. But she might have had that's something I had to do some research on. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of yeah, a lot of people say, yeah, she died, you died poor, but she really was rich, right? Because she was helping people all the time. But don't forget, like even with Martin, Martin was really young, and Martin came from a situation. Don't forget, his father, Martin's father, was a boule. If you know about what a boule is, you know Martin was already behind the eight ball and trying to help his people and trying to comprehend what was going on. But Martin's father was boule. Martin thought he was doing the right thing as far as going to a HBCU, you know, even though a lot of those colleges are not even as black as what you might think. They got black faces, but not necessarily black curriculum, if I can say it like that. Um, but you know, he went there. His father's boule. He doesn't know a lot of stuff's going on, and he became, you know, what he was supposed to. He was going to be a pastor, a preacher. That was what he was being groomed to be, and he became that, right? And part of the deal was is that when Martin basically became the leader. I'm about to say the wrong group. It wasn't the SBCU, but whatever, one of the Southern Baptist groups down there, whatever. And it was going around this time. He was told that if you're going to be the president of this group, right? If you're going to be the president of this group, he said that you've got to. Um, they told him that you're going to have to be nonviolent. Martin almost didn't accept the position because he didn't believe in nonviolence, right? So Martin didn't even believe in nonviolence. He decided to be nonviolent because that's what his people wanted. And then when he started to grow in stature, he had deacons that followed him around with guns loaded because they knew that he wasn't going to be able to be out here speaking what he was speaking and not have people trying to kill him. Was the SLC? Yeah, I can't remember what it's called. But if you do a quick Google search, I'm pretty sure you'll be able to find what it is. So basically, he was told you will be nonviolent if you're going to take this position. Ultimately, he realized that he could do more. He felt, at least, maybe he should have went another route because he was popular enough to make it to that point. So who knows? But in his mind, hey, if I'm going to help, I got to have an organization behind me. So I'll go ahead and deal with the organization. So he deals with the organization. He starts studying Gandhi and stuff, which, if you know about even Gandhi, that's why I say I think there's ignorance going on. People don't recognize, like, Gandhi hated us and wanted black people to die. He wrote stuff like that. Like, you can read his teachings. We can just see it for ourselves. That's why in Ghana they tried to put his statue up in a college, and the college students pulled it down faster than they pulled down these all these statues they were pulling down those last couple years or whatever they were doing, right? Because they know what Gandhi's about. So so basically but yeah, so MLK basically was over this group, and then over time you see him start talking about reparations more. And even when he did the March on Washington, he was brought in because JFK, told him to do the March on Washington. Now, if you know how the stuff happens and how it goes down, you'll know that, like, at first, what's his face? At first, the March on Washington was the grassroots movement, right? And then everybody in DC dedicated to laying down at the DC airport. Now it's known as Ronald Reagan Airport. They had people that were going to, like, lay down there on the ground and stop planes from going up. People were going to chain themselves to things. People were going to bust bust windows out of buildings. It was basically going to be everything that happened with the King riots. It was going to happen all over DC, but to a bigger degree. People were coming from all over the nation. So some people were coming from other countries. And so JFK, finding out about it, didn't want that to happen, especially because it's going to happen on his doorstep. Also, too, JFK, if you study JFK, you realize he's kind of a Hitler fan. So JFK didn't have our best intentions, but he didn't want it to look bad on his watch, right? So JFK came to MLK and told MLK, like, yo, we need you to lead this. And MLK was, and Martin, and Malcolm X actually talks about this in the speech. So you can listen to a Malcolm X speech, which he breaks this down greater than I can. He's got newspaper articles and all this stuff that I don't have with me. But basically, MLK got, because that's when him and Martin were enemies. So he was firing in on him. So you got to take it with a grain of salt too. Some of the stuff is just him not liking him, but some of the stuff is real talk. So basically, but anyways, Martin Luther King Jr. then is brought in the meeting. JFK's like, hey, I need you to stop this or stall it or something. And he's like, look, man, I didn't stop it. I can't. Or he's like, I didn't start it. I can't stop it. Like, what you want from me? You know? He's like, what you want from me? I didn't start this. I can't stop this. Like, I'm not in charge. and so JFK basically says, look, we got to figure this out because it's gonna be a bad look for both of us if I come through and I just got to shoot your people up, because that's what's gonna happen. Martin Luther King Jr. is like, well, we can't have that happen, in his mind. Now, some people would say should have happened. Black people should have stood up. Blah blah. Okay, in MLK's mind, he's thinking, no, we can't really do that. We can't let that happen, right? So basically, they put together this group. If you look them up, they called the Big Six, and these are people that were popular back then. They had somebody that would bankroll the event, and also somebody that basically bankrolled and said, we'll give you guys what would equate to today, like, some millions of dollars for your organizations to help you guys if you guys do this for us. So basically, from that point, MLK came. But even when he marched in on there, he told people, we're coming looking for our check, because that was what people had started with, was talking about, hey, man, y'all ain't giving us reparations, this, that, or whatever. So he still was in a mindset of where he did that, right? So eventually, like, you see him, there's a lot of ignorance there. Like, remember how young they died. And sorry. So remember how young they died. Remember how young MLK and Malcolm X were when they died. They were young men. Malcolm X, even though he grew up a Garveyite, was living as a pimp and a hustler and stuff like that. He wasn't about our people all the way, even though he had the knowledge. And he came to himself. He came to himself with the help of the teachings of Elijah Muhammad through his brother and sister, not like the movie said with Brother Baines. Brother Baines is actually a made-up character. that they put a whole bunch of people into this one character to help the movie, even though the movie was still over 3 hours long. By the way, still a great movie, but but they had to shorten the movie as much as they could, so they just put everything into this one character called Brother Baines. But yeah, like there's a lot of you have to recognize that, like with MLK, as they get older, um, and they didn't have an opportunity to get, to become elders in the community, and for us to see them as old men and to look up to them. That's part of, the whole point of the Willie Lynch type mindset. You take them and you put them in front of people, you spread their legs out, you tar and feather them, you burn them in front of everybody, you get them to be ripped apart, and you beat their men to the point of death, and you do it in front of their women and children, so that everybody knows y'all better not ever do anything like this again, right? The same thing they did to Garvey, same thing they did to what they tried to do with the noble Drew Ali, the same thing that they did with the Black Panthers, Fred Hampton, um, um, Dr. Huey P. Newton, of all the different people, right? Same thing, you know. But yeah, it's a lot of stuff in there. So even when we talk about Martin, I think we had to recognize, because then that's 63, right? Um, 65, him and Malcolm are supposed to meet up. He's actually got locked up in prison. Malcolm's not in NOI anymore. On that side, he's going to sue him on behalf of the African diaspora on this side, and they both meet up over there. They both will get shot. Oh, sorry, TikTok took us off again. They both will get shot. Martin and the guy he's meeting up with in Africa, who are going to sue on behalf of the diaspora, they both will get shot on the same day. But he comes back over a week before that. Yeah, TikTok doesn't like what we're talking about. We're going to have to move again. See what happens this time when we move. I'm just going from place to place to place to place. As they're continuing to, like, they find out where I am and they like block it, the signal, and I move a couple steps over. That happened when we didn't get a signal. I walked 2 steps down, and legit, as I walked 2 steps down, I was able to get a signal that I wasn't able to get before. But yeah, now this whole thing, signal wise, is starting to mess with us a lot. I don't know if y'all got to come over to YouTube or not. I'm trying to travel around from little place to little place in these pockets over here in this parking lot, but it's not working. It's almost time for us to take our leave. It's always right before it's time to end playing this game. Now they're not letting me come back on TikTok at all. I think they got this thing blocked in this whole area. I might be about going to the other. It looks like they got us blocked. Well, I guess I might just have to say what I was saying on as far as the rest of this. But so I'm trying to move around TikTok. They really got us blocked now in this little area, but we're almost finished anyway. So hopefully you guys can see it. Well, it looks like they're about to take us off again. Are they gonna take us off? I don't know. Yep. Well, anyways, like I was trying to say as we get ready to finish up, is that I was trying to basically say, so if you look at Martin Luther King Jr., right? And thank you, Minister Tamara. Just saw it. Appreciate it. If you look up MLK, right? You look up what happened. What finishes up, and he finishes up what's going on. It's interesting. You can tell it's. Oh wow! I just thought. Well, anyway, let me finish what I'm saying, and I'll tell you guys what just went through my head. 1963, right? MLK basically finishes up with MLK 1963, they finished a march on Washington. 1965, him and Malcolm are supposed to meet one-on-one. And when him and Malcolm are supposed to meet one-on-one, Martin is actually locked up. This is after Malcolm has met with the person over in Africa. They've met up, they've linked up, and they're talking to each other. And basically, um, Martin, Martin has is in prison, so he can't see Malcolm, but Malcolm talks to his people. Malcolm and Martin have this conversation, and when Malcolm and Martin have this conversation, basically, um, or Malcolm and Martin's people have this conversation going on. Um, Basically, Malcolm is, Malcolm and Martin are talking about they're going to bury the hatchet. They're going to start working together. They're going to stop allowing people to tear them apart. All this stuff, right? That's in '65. A week after that takes place, that's when that's when Malcolm and the guy that Malcolm met with in Africa are both killed at the same time, right? So CIA kills Malcolm over in America, simultaneously kills not Malcolm's friend that they met with over in Africa at the same time. Once they get killed over there, um, then basically they kind of have to, you know, basically the whole thing of trying to sue the American government goes away. Martin is still around. That's in '65. Now, also in '65, Martin has a famous interview, and where the interview where he says, it's a cruel joke to tell a man that doesn't have boots to pull himself up by his own bootstrap. And if you listen to that, he starts talking more like there are two Americas, right? He starts using different language more often. He keeps saying there's two Americas, and then he starts talking about reparations, and he starts talking about how you can't ask for a group of people to financially better themselves, and the people that enslaved them and took over their indigenous people that were here, they were you can't they were also in you can't ask for those people to be able to do things without giving them something back if you're not going to give them land. And he starts talking about how they had land and they had this and they had that and all these different things, right? So he starts saying like it's about land. You got to have land in order to make this stuff work. It's not going to work without the land. It's not going to work without us getting out the land of our captivity. Martin starts talking about this. So after that, when Martin starts talking about that, then all of a sudden that's when they start perking their ears up. And some black people and white people are like basically said Martin was asking for too much too soon because he was asking for white boys and black boys and white girls and black girls to be able to hold hands and stuff. And so they said he was asking for too much too soon. Right? They said he was a communist, all these different things. 1968, he gets killed. Right, same time frame that Fred Hampton gets killed, which means that you had the Black Panther Party and Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X basically right next to each other, and Medgar Evers right in the same ballpark. And and people like Maya Angelou and other people, but a lot of them wouldn't work together because they were being torn apart, right? And when they started finally coming together, they started killing them off. And so Martin gets killed in '68. And when he got killed, another census came out. And they basically said, well, what do you guys feel about Martin? And they said, a lot of people said he deserved his death. And once again, they said he was asking for too much too soon. So when we talk about Martin, I think you got to give Martin some grace. He came out of a situation where he's dealing with Boule. And if you know about who the Boule are, I had mentioned them earlier, but if you know about who the Boule are basically people who are assigned by white people to be able to make sure that they kill us off. You know, um, a lot of these black fraternities, believe it or not, are Boule fraternities. A lot of people don't know that a lot of these black fraternities are Boule fraternities or sororities, right? So before you hold your pinky up in the air and before you put your hands up, above your heads, and before you make sure that you got your diamonds and all that stuff together, like make sure you comprehend where that stuff comes from. A lot of that stuff is Boule. And that's what Martin was coming out of. He was born into that. He didn't know any better. So there's a lot of stuff that when you talk Martin and when you talk about him, a lot of times that's why I say like I think you got to give him a grace period. You got to give him the ability to be able to be like a lot of us, which where we grew up, a lot of us not knowing a lot and not being aware that this was the game that was being run. And if that's the game that's being run on us, we got to be. When we found out about it, we decided to come out of it, but we didn't know any better at one point ourselves. We thought there was nothing wrong with paying taxes. Come to find out there is. We thought that George Washington was the first president of the United States. Come to find out that was a lie. We thought that that Washington D.C. was built by white people. It's not the truth, right? We thought a lot of different things. So just like we grew, Martin Luther King Jr. would have grown. Can you imagine Martin Luther King Jr. on that same trajectory, still being alive today? what would he have been saying today? You know, can you imagine? Can you imagine Malcolm X on the same trajectory he was going on? Malcolm X, you know, came into spirituality, put spirituality together with speaking on, our people and how we need to be free and how we need to be sovereign, right? Before there was a religious sovereign movement, Malcolm X already was doing that. You hear what I'm saying? He already was teaching us religious sovereignty. Can you imagine if he was still alive? And a lot of people don't want that to happen today because they know if it happened today that we'd be, we'd be free. So they're trying to kill it off the same way they used to. Nowadays they can just cancel you. It's easier to cancel you on social media. It's easier to get people to try and join up with don't take part in it. Oh, sorry. I've been seatbelt on and off, put it on and off so much I forgot to put it back on. Sorry. But anyways, we're pretty much finished at this point. I don't really have anything else. Getting worse and worse and worse this whole time. And we're thankful, we're appreciative for you guys being on. I think we lost TikTok altogether. But thank you. We appreciate you. I honor the king and queen in each and every one of you, even if you're not living inside that kingdom or queendom yet. We appreciate the potential king and queen in each and every one of you. As always, this has been Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being a voice of the voices and speaking the unspoken. And so I have the great privilege, opportunity, and responsibility of being in front of you all again. Please remember, as always, Yashtel, I'm trying to see if the signal come back on TikTok. It looks like they're trying their hardest. All right. Please remember that you are loved, you're necessary, you're majestic, you're fearfully and wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shalom. Peace.